Should be. Yo, am I coming through? All right. Here we go. Mute your phones. No, I'm talking shit. So yeah, man. Recording from the world famous Shop Talk podcast studio in Oak Park, Michigan, right outside Detroit. And we're going to get into some things today, man.
Get to the day.
Yeah. I want to talk about black feminism, all right? And I'm going to come at it from a slightly different perspective because I'm going to give y'all cats a little background on what it is that we're dealing with here, man, because a lot of people don't know. Especially a lot of black men. A lot of black men don't really know what's going on, man. You know, I'm noticing this is sort of like we live in this sort of like almost like a post Kevin Samuels world, right? I mean, you know, he wasn't the first, but you know, he sort of became, for better or for worse, whether you loved Kevin Samuels or hated him, he sort of became like the poster child for this sort of new sort of a reemergence or black men attempting to assert themselves or to have a voice and this, that, and the third. And what they call it, the manosphere or the black manosphere and this and that. And now a lot of black men are coming after the modern woman or coming after feminism and this, that, and the third. But I think there's a lot of context that's missing, all right? Because I think a lot of black men are falling for the trap or still being kind of confined or kind of being lured into something that they don't fully understand. So I want to break this down. Before I get into it, man, you know, like I said, I don't got all the fancy bells and whistles. I'm new to this thing, but eventually I'm going to get there. So I want you to do your boy a favor, like, share, subscribe, comment, do that whole thing, because, you know, we need to spread this message. So a couple of days ago, a follower of mine on Instagram shot me a YouTube video. Let me look at it real quick, just so I can know exactly what the title of it is. So the title of the YouTube video that a follower of mine sent me is The Stud Kings. The Stud Kings. It's kind of like a play on the Woman King. Now, y'all probably hip to the whole Woman King shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, they got this whole boycott the Woman King hashtag trending on, you know, Black Twitter or whatever they want to call it, the kind of black social media space, because everybody is upset because they looking at it like, man, well, you know, come to find out, you know, there was supposed to be a movie about, you know, strong black, you know, women and this, that, and the third, you know, this clan of female warriors in Africa. But it, you know, come to find out, you know, that the Dahomey tribe, in fact, were involved in the slave trade. So everybody was saying, well, why are we glorifying Africans who sort of once traded in slaves? But that's a totally separate conversation. But well, yeah, everybody did trade in slaves, but black folk don't want to talk about it, but they so quick to play into, you know what I'm saying, these age-old Hollywood tropes, you know, as long as white people are made to look like the bad guys, they all in on that.
Gotcha.
But when it comes to black folk doing something bad to their own, well, then we need to boycott that movie. But you know, a lot of folks are saying we need to boycott the, you know, Woman King because it celebrates, you know, black feminism, this kind of stud, as the person here is calling it, this stud bigotry. Now, this is coming from, this is on I don't know the name of this particular podcast. The YouTube channel is Dwann B, DWANNB. And the guest on the show is a doctor by the name of Dr. Randy Short. Now, I've never heard of Dr. Randy Short. I don't know much about him. I don't know who he is. I listened to a bit of this conversation on this podcast.
I know there's Merrill. I don't know what he is. I don't know what he does. I don't know what he lives on.
Right. Yo, I got an audience on Buzzman in the studio with me right now, so we're gonna have a little fun with it. But yeah, I don't know much about Dr. Randy Short. I listened to some of it, you know what I'm saying? There was some of it I agree with, but it was kind of hard to stomach, to be honest with you, because well, you'll see why. But if you was interested in that, if you want to listen to that interview, like I said, if you just search the Stud Kings, Dr. Randy Short, you'll find it. I'll try to look up briefly just some background on Dr. Randy Short. I think, you know, Randy Short is somewhat of a common name. I tried to pull up some stuff on him, I don't know if this is, in fact, the same Randy Short, but from what I found out, he's a D.C. native, scholar, historian, human rights defender, social commentator, anti-eugenics advocate. He's a freelance journalist, writer, and social action, social justice missionary affiliated with the Christian Church and Orthodox and African Orthodox churches. Right, so social justice missionary affiliated. All right, so that's
long ass fucking time.
Yeah, so that's just some brief, some sort of background on him. He graduated from Howard University with a bachelor's in science and a PhD. Harvard University with his master's. I think he has a master's from the University of Virginia as well. And he has a PhD, and his PhDs are in African and African American history. So that's Dr. Short. So, like I say, he's going off on this woman king thing. He's talking about, dyke bigotry and women. So in the podcast, he's portraying the sort of modern black woman, the sort of modern black feminist woman as a traitor to her race or a traitor to the black man. All right. I say you're kind of hearing and you're seeing a lot of this now. What you're hearing from a lot of people, even, the late, great Kevin Samuels, he talked a lot about, feminism and modern women and this whole, womanist movement, this womanist culture. But, Kevin Samuels didn't really go into a lot of sort of scholarly detail because I don't necessarily think that was his lane. It may not have been his bag, but for whatever reason, he kind of stayed away from that. But that's not what I am going to do today. All right. Because a lot of black men are holding on to a premise in a very particular worldview that invited their own destruction. And their black woman, quote unquote, turned on them because of the ideology that they embrace. But they are unaware of this. So let's take a journey back a few decades because, see, there are a lot of figures in the struggle, right? The struggle for black freedom or progress or black liberation and this, that, and the third, who you all think are these, these exemplars of strength and masculinity and all these other great things, these black men who were sort of fighting on behalf of black people back in the day for our freedoms and this and that. But there are some things about these men and some of these groups that you are probably unaware of. And the group that I want to talk about primarily today is I want to get into the history of the Black Panther Party just a little bit. All right. I know that, folks, we ain't really supposed to touch them.
No, I know you ain't about to talk about the Panthers.
Yeah, I'm about to talk about the Panthers. I'm about to talk about the Black Panthers. I know because I see some of y'all, in your Instagram pages. I oftentimes see photographs and symbols and imagery of Huey P. Newton and the Black Fist and others who were not... not directly members of the Black Panther Party, but were sort of seen as somewhat affiliated or fellow comrades, as they called themselves back then, like Angela Davis and whatnot. So we're gonna get into some of these characters. And I brought, I got my little laptop right here, and that's all it takes for me to really lay some things out because I want to read some stuff directly from the source. Okay, we're gonna start off here. There's a website. All right, www.socialism.com. All right, www.socialism.com will take you to a website titled Freedom Socialist Party. Now, when we talk about this whole the movement, the struggle, however you guys choose to define this shit. We hear people talk about it. We hear people, still cling to it, saying the struggle goes on, the struggle moves forward and this, that, and the third. But we don't really understand, or we don't even make an attempt to really understand, okay, what exactly is going on here and what exactly does it mean to be liberated, okay? What are we liberating ourselves from? And what are we moving into once we move out of whatever this thing is or whatever this is supposed to be? Because when you hear people say things like Freedom Socialist Party, most people, particularly the people who idolize figures or romanticize figures like Huey P. Newton, probably 9 times out of 10 could not tell you what socialism is if you put a gun to their head and force them to define it, all right? So we're going to get into it, man. So this here is an article written by a woman named Deborah O'Gara. This is a June 1994 article entitled Voices of Color, Invisible Women, Sexism in the Black Panther Party. Sexism in the Black Panther Party. Because, see, going back to what Dr. Randy Short was talking about and going back to what a lot of black men in the black manosphere are talking about, they're talking about how, black women were manipulated and duped into doing X, Y, and Z. Well, you have to ask yourself some questions. I mean, what exactly was going on in the black liberation movement at the time that may have led to the birth of what became known as black feminism? Are these black men who were involved in this movement culpable in some way? Well, let's find out. Let's find out. So in this article, the writer of this article, Deborah O'Gara, is quoting or citing her information from 2 books. A book entitled A Taste of Power, A Woman's Story, written by Elaine Brown. This book was published in 1994. For those of you who don't know who Elaine Brown is, Elaine Brown was the leader of the Black Panther Party from, I think, about 1974 up until, I think, when Huey came back to the States after this self-imposed exile when he was, of course, in Cuba. A lot of people, sort of gloss over that, but Huey fled the United States for a brief period in the mid-1970s because he was under investigation for having murdered an 18-year-old prostitute. Now, and then that may be a shock to some of you. And let me dispel this right here and now, because we in our minds, see, we've already decided who the bad guys are and who the good guys are, right? We got the FBI over here, the CIA, the pigs, the FBI, and this, that, and the third, okay? And then we got the good guys, were the Black Panther Party, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, the Students for Life, all these groups, right? Those are the good guys. The FBI and so on and so forth were the bad guys. But what I'm here to inform a lot of you guys on is that sometimes that line is not clearly defined between who's good and who's bad, because everything that the individuals did who were under investigation by the COINTELPRO and FBI and the whole 9 yards, everything that they did was not above board. What happened then, and what we need to understand today, is that was the presupposition, okay, coming from a lot of people who sympathize with the cause of the Black Panther Party. You see, in 2022, you are made to think that the Black Panther Party were like this group of people over here who everybody just and they were just raging against the machine and going again, and it was just this insurmountable thing, and the whole society, the entire country had their ire aimed against the Black Panther Party, and that is not true at all. There were a lot of people who were on the side of the Black Panther Party even back in the 1970s. And a lot of what members of the Black Panther Party and people affiliated with those groups were being accused of, a lot of people didn't believe it because they thought that the FBI and other nefarious groups working on behalf of the government were planting evidence and doing this and doing that. Now, I'm not saying that the FBI weren't doing things, because, of course, the FBI was involved in some counterintelligence activities. But a lot of the things that some of these men and women were accused of, they were, in fact, doing. They were, in fact, doing. And we're going to talk about some of it. And you're going to hear about some of the things that members of the Black Panther Party was doing from their own members. This book entitled A Taste of Power, written by Elaine Brown, and a book titled This Side of Glory, written by David Hilliard and Lewis Cole. David Hilliard was also a member of the Black Panther Party. I've never heard of this Lewis Cole gentleman, but Deborah, the writer of this article, goes off to say, I'm going to read directly from the article. The energizing and fundamental role women play in revolutionary organizations came home to me afresh as I read memoirs by Elaine Brown and David Hilliard, both former leaders in the Black Panther Party. The two authors show us the reason for the party's spectacular rise and also its agonizing fall. Their books reveal directly or indirectly how sexism helped to destroy the Panthers.
Hey, just a question. Ain't that one of the reasons why it's alleged that Angela Davis actually never actually really
became a member
of the Black Panther Party? Because even in all the shit that they were aligned on, it was some thoughts of, she was like, but I don't fuck with how they treat women.
Not for my personal, I don't know. I mean, that could be true. I can't say honestly that I've actually came across that or read like a quote from Angela Davis or saw it in a book or saw it in an interview where she said that she made an allegation about the Panthers. But of course, you know, Angela Davis was, I mean, she is sort of like the patron saint of the Black feminist movement, and I got some smoke for Angela Davis too. We're gonna get to her if time allows me. I'm gonna have to break this up into two parts. But Hilliard and Brown both recount their experiences growing up Black and oppressed and learning how to survive. All right, so we're gonna go to. So I don't necessarily see the part of the international integrationists. Okay, I'll read this. For them, as for many others, the Black Panther Party and its visionary 10-point program gave direction and potency to their daily fight against racism. They show how the party's internationalist, integrationalist, and socialist parties grabbed the hearts and minds of Black people and people of all colors radicalized by war, injustice, and broken promises in the U.S. and globally. So like I said, the Black Panther Party was a very popular, almost like a mainstream group. As a matter of fact, you know, we see the tendency of the modern day white progressive or white liberal to you know, sort of you know, we call it sort of pandering and you know, this kind of bigotry of low expectation that they have for a lot of Black people, right? This sort of modern day liberal racism. Back then, Huey P. Newton's lawyer, whose name escapes me at the time, but you know, he said after the fact, after Huey passed away, after having represented him numerous times in, you know, his various interactions with the law, said that Huey actually, check this out now, Huey actually loved when he had a white jury. And the reason why Huey P. Newton loved when he had an all-right jury and they would try to, you know, select jurors who he thought would be sympathetic to him, because why? Because he knew that he can play on their sympathy. He could play on their ignorance because he felt as though he can manufacture their sympathy, because he wanted to give off the impression that, once again, he was this Black man oppressed in America who was trying to lift up his people, right? And the pigs were just unjustly after him.
Nino Brown. Nino Brown, right? They did this to me, Miss
Hawkins, yeah.
Right? When I'm on trial, right? I was just trying to feed my family. I was trying to da-da-da-da-da.
That's right.
What did the kid say? He said, man, I hate that motherfucker. He by the neighborhood, all the turkeys. And really deep down inside, he a cold-hearted motherfucker.
Yep.
As I seem like that's the dynamic you kind of describing.
Yeah.
With Huey.
Yeah. Yep. And he'll say it wasn't. You know, Huey, he loved that because he knew he could intimidate that. He knew he could play on them. And like I said, a lot of same thing we see from white liberals today, they were back in the 70s and 80s when all of this stuff was going on. Because you see, and I was talking to my partner before we start filming this shit. You know what I'm saying? And we Black folk, we know what the fuck is really going on in the street. You dig what I'm saying? And we be around motherfuckers who really about that life, who really doing that shit, you know what I mean? And so what you have is you got a lot of these uppity Black motherfuckers that, you know, graduated from the Ivy League, all right? But I mean, you can say whatever they want to say. Cats like Michael Larry Dyson be talking all this shit like he from the D and this, that, and the third. I ain't never seen him, but he, you know what I'm saying? But he's an Ivy League educated university professor. Cornell West, the rest of them. This goes all the way back to the days of W.E.B. Du Bois, who was at the forefront, who was the face of the National Association, the NAACP. I can't remember, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. They put W.E.B. Du Bois out front. And W.E.B. Du Bois was another black man who never had to struggle. Remember the whole thing with the beef between he and Booker T. Washington, remember? W.E.B. Du Bois thought that activism was the way for black improvement. Booker T. Washington believed that work and industry was the way forward, all right? Work and success and achievement over activism. Booker T. Washington was born into slavery. W.E.B. Du Bois was born free and went on, of course, to become a Harvard graduate. Booker T. Washington built a school, an historically black college that still stands today. And when I tell you Booker T. Washington built it, he literally built it with his hands because he stressed academics and he stressed vocation, meaning that you may not have it up here, and even if you do have it up here, it's good to have both. What can you build? Can you do plumbing? How's your electrician work? How's your carpentry? All of that good shit, all right? So you got these black elitists, and they are giving kind of ideological cover to the motherfuckers that's out here, you know, really on that shit that don't give a fuck about nothing they talking about. You know, they ain't gonna pick up no textbook. They don't care about none of that. But you just keep running that shit over to the mainstream. You keep running that shit over, right? Okay, to liberal America and let them believe that shit, that we these old oppressed, nah. And we really, you know, we some cold-blooded killers. But you keep telling them that shit. That's how Huey was. I'm gonna go back to this article. In Hilliard, in his book, This Side of the Story, Hilliard relives the war waged on the party by the police and the FBI, the infiltration, the murders and arrests. With refreshing honesty, he lays bare the destructive internal trends fed by the government's dirty tricks that became entrenched practice, the paranoia that turned comrades against each other, the culture of drugs and gangsterism, and founding hero Huey P. Newton's progressive isolation in one-man rule. Huey P. Newton was a dictator. He ran the Black Panther Party with an iron fist. And believe me when I tell you, once again, you hear me and I'm reading directly from the article, and I started off talking about socialism, all right? Anyone who makes it up in their mind that this is what they want to adhere to has dictatorial tendencies. These people are tyrants just screaming to get out. You don't want to give the likes of an Umar Johnson control over your life. All right? Same thing with Huey P. Newton. And this is coming from David Hilliard, a man who was a high-ranking member of the Black Panther Party. But of course, Hilliard, he blames it on the FBI. Okay? Hilliard has more trouble, however, in discussing sexism. But he says enough for a reader to conclude that poisoned male-female relations must have played an enormous part in disintegrating the party. Now, in contrast, in Elaine Brown's Taste of Power, vividly describes the persuasive and sometimes brutal ill treatment that female Panthers faced: physical abuse, exploitation as sexual prizes and workhorses, and denigration of their abilities. As early as 1969, Brown realized that women, this is a quote from Elaine Brown, mind you, she was the leader of the Black Panther Party in 1974. This is a quote from her, that women would have to fight for their right to fight for freedom. So women were told by the Panthers, nah, y'all get the, now hold on, I'm not saying that the Panthers were wrong for telling the women to get to the background, but the women didn't like that shit, all right? And it goes even further, because by 1975, she concluded that the value of my life had been obliterated as much by being female as by being black and poor. So female, black, poor, you have gender, race, and class. Here's where we start. Now, this is back in 1975. I think the so-called scholar Kimberly Crenshaw coined the term intersectionality in, I think, 1989, sometime during the late 1980s. But remember, intersectionality, and I know some of y'all are like, man, what the fuck is that shit? I'm gonna try to break it down for you because this is one of them goofy ass words that these college motherfuckers be throwing around. But this is why you got teaching Chuck here. I'm gonna try to break this shit down on a level that my peoples and them can understand. So you got race, gender, class. All of those are three separate factors or identity markers that intersect, right? Intersectionality. So even though a black man is oppressed because of the color of his skin, he may even be oppressed because he's poor. A black man will never know what it's like to be a woman. Now, some of y'all are probably thinking, well, I mean, what the fuck? Well, I mean, why does it even matter? Why do I even have to know what it feels like to be a woman? But I don't know. Fuck, ask them. I'm going to tell you exactly what they saying what it's like to be a black woman, you see? Because if you feel like that you are in the position that you're in because of the white man or white people or the white, whatever you want to describe it, then what say you? Because, I mean, the black woman could say, well, wait a minute. Because if there's a power dynamic between black and white, then there must be a power dynamic between male and female. And if I am female and you are not, then I have a unique experience as a black female that you can't possibly understand.
Basically, I'm shitted on twice as much as you.
That's right. That's right. Now, Dr. Short and other folk who, may disagree with that. But once again, you have no defense when that same modality, when that same methodology is being used against you, you have no defense. Because the problem isn't black feminism. Black feminism is a mutation, a subcategory within a larger category, black man, that many of you are still trapped in. And I'm going to expose it. But like many black women, Brown believed that feminism was strictly for well-off whites and was put off by the predominant radical feminist ideology of the era. That is, the idea that gender concerns are more important than race concerns and that men are the enemy, not capitalism. There's that word, capitalism. Oh, we're going to talk about that. Brown admits that she did not always speak out against female subordination in the Panthers. Instead, she concentrated on shoring up her own tenuous leadership position conferred on her unilaterally by Newton. To stay on top while Huey was in prison, she relied on the normal macho enforcement techniques. She reports that she was finally goaded into action when Regina Davis, who managed the Panthers' highly praised school, ended up in the hospital. The brothers, as Elaine Brown calls them, had beaten Davis up and broken her jaw because she reprimanded a male colleague for not carrying out an assignment. Now, this is according to Elaine Brown. So you have another female member of the Black Panther Party, Regina Davis, who was severely beaten and had her jaw broken by other members of the Black Panther Party who happened to be male. All right? But once again, our black women have turned their backs on us because, see, there is something intrinsic in any man who would cling to this ideology because that's a weak man off rip. Oh, shit, did I just piss some of y'all off? I might have. And I'm going to see, because you're going to find that kind of abuse of women when you get around a bunch of men who think like that. Not think in terms of sexism, but think in terms of the way the left makes everyone who adheres to their worldview think. Because leftism is for weak people. And I'm going to get off and I'm going to get more into that. If y'all just allow me to go a little further, all right? Now, Brown writes that when she told Newton of her anger over the attack, he refused to break solidarity with the men, challenging her to a debate in the Central Committee. Now, I'm going to just skip down because I feel like this article ran a little long because I got some more things I want to discuss. As the Black Panther chairman, Brown had more influence than any other woman. Her failure to challenge female visibility inside the party was a tragedy, not just for the Panthers, but for the feminist movement, which relies on the pace-setting contributions of radical women of color to remain healthy, united, and effective. Brown and Hilliard, in the incredibly significant party they belonged to, could not break free of the sexism of the time, but learning from their struggles will help today's anti-racist revolutionaries, men and women, create a new organization that takes up where the Panthers left off. So think about, where we are today. All right, now what do we have? What is it? The BLM movement or some of these other movements? I think of these kind of movements. I think of BLM first, and we know that the three co-founders of Black Lives Matter, they're all black female. and they're black female lesbians to boot. And we're going to talk about lesbianism as well. So here we're going to move on from there. Now this is from I think this is a law journal, Race, Racism, and the Law. All right. This is some of the articles also on this website titled racism.org. If you want to check this out, www.racism.org. They have articles on mass incarceration and the minority vote, critical justice, transforming mass incarceration, breaking the cycle of homelessness and incarceration, the fundamental right to be parented, and the implications for children with incarcerated mothers. This is the type of stuff they put on their site. White supremacy, police brutality, and family separation, preventing crimes against humanity within the United States. Families, I thought y'all love that shit, family separation. I guess black, if you black, white, whatever the fuck, let's just say you black, if you buy into this family separation bullshit, right? Especially when it comes to illegal immigration, just as a sidebar, they talk about separating families. So I guess the only thing that I would have to do in order to get away with breaking into your house would be to bring my kids with me. Because if I'm breaking the law and I get caught, I get arrested. I go off to jail or, and then, I get tried. And if I'm found guilty, I go to prison. And I don't see my kids, right? But I'm an American citizen. But you can break our laws, break the laws of the country by coming in illegally. You bring your child. You shouldn't be arrested because you're being separated from your child. We don't even know if that's your fucking child because we don't know who you are. But we're not supposed to separate families. No, motherfucker, it ain't called family separation. It's called getting arrested. You break the law, you get arrested. All right? The white supremacist constitution, racial justice and peace. So this is kind of shit they put on their website. Now, this is from a book, but this is the title of the book. But Some of Us Are Brave, A History of Black Feminism in the United States. This is an anthology that was put together by a woman, co-edited by Akasha Gloria Hull, Patricia Bell Scott, and another so-called scholar named Barbara Smith. Now, they explain black feminism as such. They say, the black feminist movement grew out of and in response to the black liberation movement and the women's movement in an effort to meet the needs of black women who felt they were being racially oppressed in the women's movement, so that's pretty much white women, and sexually oppressed in the black liberation movement. The black feminist movement was formed. All too often, black was equated with black men. This is what they're saying. Black was equated with black men, and woman was equated with with white women. So black women had no real movement of their own. So they needed a movement.
Give me one too.
Yeah, get you one too. Right? So now you got all type of motherfuckers. There'd be the disability movement, the fat phobia movement, the queer movement, the transgender movement. Everybody got themselves a movement now. Okay. Now, I don't know, some of you, it should be dark.
Is there a fat movement though?
Yeah. They call it the body positivity movement. It actually has an intellectual term for it called fat phobia.
Oh, they tripping. I got to get in that.
Yeah.
Some shit going on. I got to get in this.
Fat phobia, bro. Look it up. As a result, black women were an invisible group whose existence and needs were ignored, right? All right, so that's just kind of like a brief going to, we talking about that. Now, the birth of the black feminism movement was marked by the founding of the National Black Feminist Organization in New York in 1973. All right, so we're gonna move on. We'll take a couple steps down here. Now, it says black women faced constant sexism in the black liberation movement. Although there were different movements for black liberation, the Civil Rights Movement, Black Nationalism, the Black Panthers, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, and others, for the purposes of this paper, they are all considered under the title of black liberation. So you had all this sexism and abuse of black women going on in all these movements, all right? Now, I don't know, black men, are y'all taking ownership of this? Did this happen or what? Or are the black women just making this up? Or if it did in fact happen, does that in fact justify the need for a black feminist movement? Because y'all telling me that black feminism is fucking up the black community, that all these butch, all these masculine, Jezebel-spirited women are fucking up black men and destroying the concept of marriage, the nuclear family, and this, that, and the third, and that's what's in fact harming the black community. I see a lot of y'all starting to come over. All right. But then when we start talking about these things like the importance of fathers, the importance of the nuclear family and growing up with both a mother and a father in the home, y'all start telling me that those are Republican talking points. Y'all start telling me that these are conservative talking points.
Hold on. Having a father in the home, there are people who are saying, no, we don't need that. You're telling, that's what you're telling me. Show yourselves. Show yourselves. I want to see your fucking face. Nobody's saying that, bro. That's why I be talking about you, man. I think you be inventing shit, man. Ain't nobody getting up here saying, you don't need a father in the home. Ain't nobody saying no dumbass shit like that.
You know, shit, I think...
Jay, somebody said that, Jay?
I think you posted on your Instagram.
I never said that, did I?
From that Andrew Tate nigga.
What that nigga say? Explain yourself. You said he was going to get us off the farm. Explain yourself.
I missed that, bro. I'm going to have to check your Instagram page to see that I missed that. I missed that post.
Hey, bro, listen.
But, okay, when you find it, though, let me know. So yeah, man, because, you know, it's not enough to talk about personal responsibility and personal accountability because we still need to make... We need to make changes to the structure. I mean, you know, Lyndon B. Johnson's a Great Society program. I mean, the proof is in the pudding, right? I mean, they incentivized fatherlessness, right, by giving all sorts of welfare entitlements and benefits to women raising children without fathers in the home. And this, of course, led to the downfall of the nuclear family in the black community. And we're seeing the downfall of the nuclear family across racial lines here in the United States and all across the West for that matter, because, of course, we are also dealing with the cultural deprivation that was brought upon by the free sex, free love, the counterculture movement around the same time in the 1960s and 1970s. It changed cultural attitudes about gender roles and about sex in marriage. Because remember, you know, feminists always one of their big time talking points was to make the personal political, right? And so a woman's personal decision, for example, to have children, to stay in the home and to be a mother, you know, that was, of course, an example of male oppression. Because, you know, the things that went along with that didn't bring the kind of attention and fame and money and accolades and adoration that they saw being kind of bequeathed or bestowed upon their male counterparts. And so the whole saying and attitude was that marriage was a woman's introduction to slavery. And this is what they preached. This was, you know, way back then with you know, some of the key players in the so-called white feminists, or the white women's their sort of branch of feminism that was led by characters like Gloria Steinem and Betty Friedan. I'm going to read too on this same article that there's a woman named Bell Hooks. Okay, Bell Hooks is quoted in this article. She comments during the Black Liberation Movement in the 1960s. This is what Bell Hooks says about y'all black men. She's a black woman. She says, black men overemphasized white male sexual exploitation of black womanhood as a way to explain their disapproval of interracial relationships. It was, however, no contradiction of their political views to have interracial relationships themselves. So, according to Bell Hooks, back then, you had all these pro-black, righteous black men was talking all this shit about white men exploiting black women, right, sexually and this, that, and the third, all right, to excuse their disapproval of interracial relationships, all the while they fucking all these white women.
You mean niggas was hitting black white bitches?
Oh, but y'all love Eldridge Cleaver, right? Y'all know who Eldridge Cleaver is? Mr. Soul on Ice?
Nah,
Yeah.
White hoes.
Yeah.
Eldridge had some white hoes.
Yeah, he sure
Huey had
did.
white hoes too.
He did too. Huey did
Huey
too.
was a dope dealer.
Yeah.
Huey really was in the street.
Yeah.
That was kind of why and how the Panthers was able. I didn't want to say shit.
Yeah, now
but
you-
I got
you-
a little fucked up, so
Yeah.
y'all gonna get this. I'm telling you, my daddy and them was certified street niggas, and they grew up loving to tell me how they all used to hang with Huey Newton. And the reason why, my daddy is how he said, yeah, you know, Huey was in the game.
Yeah, Huey was in the game.
Huey was in the game. I know niggas gonna switch and be like, man, you know, they was all in the game, man. You know, everybody had they, you know, they little thing, but that, yeah. And listen, free breakfast is great. That was a great idea. I was listen. Thanks for the free breakfast. But them niggas was really dope
dealers. That's right.
They was really street niggas.
That's right. It was street
And what
niggas.
they would often
If y'all don't hear
do
me.
is be used as like, yeah, but as long as they were saying black power,
Power. That's right.
it was covered up in a lot of the bullshit
Shit they was doing. That's right.
They was moving dope. That's how they had control over the dope dealers. That's how they was able to tell certain dope dealers. They played it like in the movie, the one Kadeem Harrison. They it wasn't that they was against dope.
No, they wasn't.
Was users themselves.
Yep. Hugh Newton was a drug addict. That's right.
User.
That's right. He was a
That's
heroin
why
addict.
these niggas knew the streets and could control them.
That's right.
And get as much buy-in and participation because they was really the nigga. Imagine the nigga that you know that's an asshole. I mean, that's like, you know what I'm saying, out here living, being in the street. Imagine that nigga being like, hey, but you know, black power.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, black power, but you're also a heroin addict.
Yep.
But
Yep.
you know, whatever.
And then, like you say, that was the cover.
But you probably said the niggas used to come to his neighborhood. His daddy used to be like, I don't know them niggas. Get your ass from here with that damn shit.
Right.
Fuck with fire, fuck that bullshit. He was doing
Yep.
that mud bone.
Yep. And like I say, let me know, people don't know. They think, you know, like this was just some, you know, either they pretend it didn't happen, act like it didn't exist, or once again they try to make it out like it was always just this government conspiracy to take the Black Panther Party and their various offshoots away from whatever the fuck it is that they were trying to do. Go ahead.
Some sweet uniforms though.
Yeah, they did.
The black leather jacket.
Yeah, the leather jackets and the berets and the hats. It was cute.
It was sweet, man.
It was cute.
A nigga dressed like that today, he getting.
Yeah, he getting roasted.
Jay damn near like a Black Panther every time I see this nigga. And I know he get like at least 30 extra points for looking like that. Because bitches like you look like Black Panther.
Yep. But see, let me go back to Eldridge real quick because
They look better than Klansmen outfits. Them niggas
yeah,
got that shit hard.
yeah. Well, they know those Klan outfits got some occult significance there too. Well, maybe that's another day.
I'm just saying, when
Yeah.
we talk about groups and
yeah.
racism, niggas had outfits.
Fits, yeah.
I'm just saying, Black Panthers had
That's
sweeter
cool outfits than the
Klansmen.
Klansmen.
That's
All right,
all I'm
with you.
saying.
Okay, I feel that.
Don't nobody get
Right.
all bent out of shape.
Right.
I mean,
So you know, and the thing about Eldridge, I mean, hell, if you look at what his wife's name, Catherine. If you look at Catherine, I mean, you know, she ain't nothing wrong with her skin tone, but she was a very fair-skinned woman. I think she had like green eyes or something, but she's a very pretty woman, especially, you know, back then when she was younger. But it wasn't just so much that Eldridge Cleaver had an affinity for white women. Eldridge Cleaver was a known rapist. As a matter of fact, he admitted such. I don't know if you all knew this, but these are the words of Eldridge Cleaver himself. I became a rapist to refine my technique and modus operandi. Y'all laughing. Y'all didn't know Eldridge Cleaver was a rapist?
This nigga is wildin'. What you just said to me, man?
Eldridge Cleaver was a rapist. Let me read a quote from him. I became a rapist.
How many hoodies niggas gonna have to burn now with Huey and Eldridge and them on?
They need to.
That's a good hoodie, man.
This why.
I'm gonna put an X through it.
This is why we're here. This is why we're here. I became a rapist. To refine my technique and modus operandi, I started out by practicing on black girls in the ghetto. In the black ghetto, where vicious and dark deeds appear not as aberrations or deviations, but are the norm, but as part of the sufficiency of the evil of a day. And when I considered myself smooth enough, I crossed the tracks and sought out white prey. So,
This nigga, we were so wild.
now this goes back to the editors of this anthology. They go off to say, Cleaver later on goes on to express his remorse at his actions, but retains his misogynistic attitudes. One can see both sexism and racism at work in this citation. Not only is he committing violence against women, but he considers the violence against black girls to be less serious than those against their white counterparts. Now, you see the bullshit, because that's what she says. Now, this black feminist who wrote this bullshit says that Eldridge Cleaver, because he's expressing not only his misogyny, so his hatred for women, and his racism because he's going after black women first. That's what she says. But what did he just say? He said that he honed his skills practicing on black girls in the ghetto because he said violence was not an aberration or a deviation, but it was the norm. The reason why he went after black girls is because he said black girls stayed in areas where things like this were common. He didn't, that's not what he said. Now, she can put that spin on it all she wants to, but he said he went after black girls because he knew that he can get away with it. Oh, because the system and the police, they don't give a fuck if black women getting tortured, this, that, and the third. Nah, motherfucker, but ain't but so many of them. It ain't but so many cops, it ain't but so much resources and shit to go around. I can't be around every motherfucking corner. So a lot of shit gonna slip through the cracks, because by the time that shit done reach the law enforcement, we at the end of the road. But it's a whole lot of other shit got to happen before we reach the point where niggas just out here feeling like it's cool to just rape motherfuckers and feel like they gonna get away with it.
He used to hang out with R. Kelly. That shit R. Kelly was damn. Man, this nigga wild.
But see, but the Panthers, they're heroes. Okay, fine. And, and like I say, I'm just.
They're not heroes to me anymore. They're just guys with cool hats.
Guys with cool hats.
I like your hats, man. I like your hat.
All right.
And I like that Panther. That guy's cool.
Yeah, they're cool. They had a cool name. They had a cool name.
That name was out. Listen, that's black shit for you. Niggas had a cool name and had cool outfits. Mm-hmm. They had really cool outfits and cool name, and their logo was fire.
Yeah, they had
with the Panther. Jack.
They had white Panthers. They had white Panthers too. They had white Panthers. They actually had a group of Chicano communists back then that called themselves the Brown Berets.
Yeah,
and they all kind of.
I saw their outfits. I didn't like them.
Yeah, they all kind of dressed the same.
I didn't see that. I didn't like that shit. No, not dissing none of my Spanish people. None of my. I fuck with y'all. I'm just saying, from a fashion standpoint, them niggas was still on some shit. Just like R. Kelly. Okay. I know he's a rapist, but he got hits.
Yeah, it's just slap. Somebody said, man, how the fuck you still listen to R. Kelly shit? Easy, niggas, fuck with headphones.
Yeah, he doesn't own the memory that I made to that song. You don't know whose booty I was feeling on when that song came out. That's my memory. You nigga, I bought the song. I own it. That's my song.
I say that's y'all, yeah. That's y'all, boy. So the chick who co-edited this article, Barbara Smith, she articulates the reservations many black women had about the black feminist movement. Now, these are myths used to divert black women from their freedom. This is according to this woman here, Barbara Smith. Number one, the black woman is already liberated. She said that's one myth. Myth number two, racism is the primary or only oppression black women have to confront. Myth number three, feminism is nothing but man-hating. Myth number four, women's issues are narrow, apolitical concerns. People of color need to deal with the larger struggle. And five, those feminists are nothing but lesbians. Okay. So she said something that resonated with me when I read that quote when I was doing research for this shit right here. When she said, going back, she said women's issues are narrow, apolitical concerns. People of color need to deal with the larger issue. Now I got to call out some of y'all black men out there, because y'all run around, y'all the ones, rest in peace to Kevin Samuels and this and that, and then I know that y'all borrowing a lot of scholarship and a lot of talking points from Jordan Peterson. Y'all love him too, which is cool. That's fine. That's fair. I love Jordan Peterson too. But see, what y'all problem is, y'all mad because y'all claim that in order for black people to really get to where they have to go, the black woman need to get in line. And this is the same shit that they were saying back then. Wait a minute. We doing all this shit for the black race, But what about the cause of black women? Now, black men are saying, no, but fuck that. This race shit is more important. We need y'all to unify with us so we can take on who our enemy really is. This is what y'all telling them. So y'all mad that the black woman done broke rank. So you want her back in the fold. But they like, man, fuck what you talking about. See, the problem is the shit that y'all embrace in the first place. This whole notion that, oh, this blackness shit that we as a people, whether it's we talking gender collective or we're talking about a racial collective, there is no such thing as a we all go here and then we move here. Because just like black women have their own unique perception of what it means to be a black woman that you can never experience. At the end of the day, what you all need to begin to embrace is the idea that the individual himself is the ultimate minority. You don't need none of that shit. Because you can't say shit to them when they do what the fuck they do on the basis that they do it on because you move in the same way. You can't sit up and say, well, we need to fight for black liberation. No, you don't need to fight for shit. You need to fight for yourself by doing what the fuck it is you need to do. Because this ain't that, my nigga. This ain't, the shit y'all talking about, that's not reality. You living in some play shit. And this is how they getting y'all. So that's why you're black, that's why they doing what the fuck, that's why the black woman has betrayed you. This is why the black woman has turned her back on you. Because you've turned your back on common sense. She ain't gonna do nothing but follow up behind what the fuck it is that you doing.
You monkey?
You monkey, she gonna be monkey. She ain't got a chance.
You don't like her monkey.
Right.
You like your monkey.
Let's talk, y'all remember, y'all like the color purple? Y'all mean, everybody seen the color purple, right? You seen the color purple, Jay?
Man, this nigga tweaking, bro. He just being a grinch. This nigga just said color purple was trash. I'm not listening to this nigga.
Yeah. I know.
No, he's serious. This just saying stuff.
Y'all remember, you know, I keep bringing him up because he was the guy, the Godfather, man. Remember Kevin Samuels would always talk about the color purplification of America. We'd always talk to black women, and they always talk about, you know, making all these allegations, this, that, and the third about black men. He would always say, "Nah, bitch." I mean, he wouldn't call women bitches, but he was just say, you know, y'all on that Mr. shit. Don't laugh. Y'all on that, you know. Black men, you painting this picture of black men that never existed. Y'all start looking at black men in that way after the color purple came out. You know what I'm saying? Because I didn't know no misters in my neighborhood.
I ain't know none of them niggas. I didn't know niggas was like
Mister was a cold motherfucker. You look at Danny Glover, you still see Mister. He can't escape that role. He you know what I mean? But a lot of folks.
How many times you Murtaugh?
Right, right. You ain't Murtaugh, you Mister, motherfucker. Or maybe you Murtaugh second. I give you that. You know, we fuck with Murtaugh. But no, but you know, people my age, you know, I was young when the Color Purple came out. But remember, Color Purple was based upon a novel that was written by Alice Walker, and it was, you know, directed by Steven Spielberg. Now, at the time, a lot of black people were upset at Steven Spielberg for putting this movie out. You know, y'all might not remember, but people were upset for that very reason because they said that it made the black community look bad. But then you had the black feminists that were saying, well, but wait a minute. These are things that are actually going down. These are things that are actually taking place, and this, that, and the third, and we have the right to say these things and put these images and put these stories out. But a lot of black people were pissed off with Steven Spielberg and with Alice Walker. But Alice Walker, she coined the term womanist to describe the black feminist movement. Now let's go into what she means when she uses the term womanist, from womanish. It's the opposite of girlish, frivolous, irresponsible, or not serious. A womanist is a black feminist or feminist of color, usually referring to outrageous, audacious, courageous, or willful behavior. Now, is that how is that the type of women y'all want to be around? That's the type of women y'all want to, I don't know, audacious, courageous, outrageous. I mean, I don't know. Outrageous. I don't know what the fuck y'all. Yeah, that's how she defines a woman, a womanist. A womanist is outrageous, audacious, courageous, or willful behavior, wanting to know more or in greater depth than is considered good for one. She is responsible, in charge, in charge, and serious. Definition number 2, also, a woman who loves other women, sexually and or non-sexually.
I feel like you just described Beyonce.
I may have just described Beyonce. Listen, appreciates and prefers women's culture. I don't know what that means.
Or strong-J.
Women's emotional flexibility. Values tears as natural counterbalance of laughter, and women's strength, committed to the survival and wholeness of entire people, male and female, not separatists, except periodically for health. Now, some of you, say Alice Walker, you may not know who she, I know much about her background, but besides the fact that she wrote The Color Purple, but Alice Walker, she graduated from Spelman College in Atlanta. And there was a man who taught Russian history at Spelman College by the name of Howard Zinn. Now, the reason why I brought up Howard Zinn is because, now we have to start getting into where much of this stems from and who, in fact, influenced Alice Walker, because the same exact people who influenced Alice Walker are the same kind of people that's influencing the way a lot of black men think. Howard Zinn, if you don't know who Howard Zinn is, I just, you should look him up. But I just want to briefly, this was a letter written on Boston, the Boston Globe, I'm sorry. This was written in the Boston Globe by Alice Walker herself on January 31st, 2010, shortly after Howard Zinn had died. All right? This is Alice Walker saying, this is in Alice Walker's goodbye letter to Howard Zinn. She writes, I met Howard Zinn in 1961, my first year at Spelman College in Atlanta. He was tall, rangy, good-looking professor that many of the girls at Spelman swooned over. Now, eventually, Howard Zinn was thrown out of Spelman because there were allegations that he was having sex with all these black girls. Okay. And he ended up, of course, he ended up getting rehired, and he went on to teach, I think, the rest of his college career. He taught at Boston University, the alma mater of Dr. Martin Luther King. Might do some stuff on him another time, too. But, yeah, so, Howard Zinn, he running around doing all this wild stuff with all these young black girls, and he was...
And this the nigga teaching them.
And this is the nigga teaching them.
He hitting them.
Yeah, he hitting them
and teaching
them. Hitting them and teaching them. Yep. And,
he's a teacher.
Yeah, and he was, like I say, he was fired for breaking the morality codes of the college, because they had curfews and all this stuff that they weren't supposed to do.
So he like Udoka. He like
Ime Udoka. Whatever the fuck his name is.
At Spelman.
At Spelman. Yeah. So got Leah Lana. She 50, but you say she can still get that work. Still need a loan. Okay, yeah. So look, I ain't gonna read the whole. It's a long fucking letter she writes, and this is kind of goodbye letter to Howard Zinn. But she goes on. I really want to read this part where she says, one way it did play out was the very next summer. Now she's talking. I'm fast forwarding. I was on my way to the Soviet Union to see how white those folks were, and to tell as many of them as I could, even if they were white, that I did not agree with my country's notions of bombing them. This is Alice Walker, mind. This is the Color Purple bitch. She going off to the Soviet Union. Y'all laughing? I'm sorry. Y'all see, they got me on some shit right now. Cause I'm.
That is the Color Purple.
This the broad who wrote The Color Purple. I'm sorry, I'm in my shit right now, y'all. So y'all just gonna have to roll with it or fuck get off the train.
Hey man, we just kicking it.
Yeah,
man.
she goes over. I'm like this because I got my audience in this motherfucker. And they this is a bad influence.
We thought it would be a little nice little switch up to just have
they a bad
conversation
influence
with some humor and just how we really be talking.
Right. So she goes over to the Soviet Union. This is during the Cold War now, to tell the Soviet Union that she didn't approve of the United States bombing them. So y'all thought, that all the stuff that was going on back then, speaking of the Panthers and all the stuff, all the groups and all the, we all see the grainy black and white footage. Some of it is in color. of the hell no, we won't go, make love not war, and this, that, and the third, all this protest against the Vietnam War, and Muhammad Ali saying ain't no Viet Cong never called me nigga. So many of you all are on that train and on that bandwagon. I don't think you have the foggiest idea what the fuck the Vietnam War was really all about. Here we have this woman, Alice Walker, she's going over to visit the Soviet Union. Do you all know who else just so happened to visit the Soviet Union on his honeymoon? Huh? He's a Democrat representative in the Senate. He's a Democrat senator by the name of Bernie Sanders. He and his wife honeymooned in the Soviet Union. And the flip side of that is, if you can believe this, do you know Fidel Castro? Yeah, Fidel Castro, the longtime leader of communist Cuba. It's just a bit of irony that he, in fact, honeymooned with his wife. He honeymooned in the United States, so go figure. So Fidel Castro comes to the U.S. on his honeymoon, and this motherfucker Bernie Sanders, he goes off to the Soviet Union.
Not the Soviet Union that he hates. Not the Soviet Union that he can't stand.
But no, but see, but Bernie Sanders, see, he loved the Soviet Union because he wanted the United States to become more like the Soviet Union, and so did Alice Walker. Oh. And this is why I'm bringing the Soviet Union up. So we can, in fact, kind of get to some of this, so we can kind of break down this whole feminism and this whole black liberation thing, because I'm going to tie it up a full circle and we're going to get on up out of here. So she says, I didn't see a lot of generals, but children, women, and men and old people of both sexes were everywhere. They were usually smiling and offering flowers or vodka. There was no iron curtain between us, as I had been told to expect by the Georgia media. I love to tell them the story of how I was so ignorant at the time that I didn't even have a clue who folks were queuing up in to see Lenin's tomb. Nor did I even know what the Kremlin was. So this is Alice Walker. Once again, she's painting this glorious utopian sort of vision of what life was like when she went to the Soviet Union. She said there was no Iron Curtain, right? There were just men and women and boys and girls smiling, offering flowers and vodka. And in reality, the Soviet Union was hell on earth. And for the longest time, of course, our liberal media like the New York Times and writers like Walter Duranty were running cover for men like Joseph Stalin because they were on Joseph Stalin's payroll. But you had a lot of sympathizers the same way. See, it's the same old soup, just reheated. We think all this shit is new because we're living in the kind of the political environment that Donald Trump created. Okay, but what you all don't understand is that the people who are opposed to Donald Trump or who hate Donald Trump was doing the exact same things then that they are doing today. Because the media in America back as far back as the 1930s were running cover and running these cushy drive-by, non-investigative, uncritical articles about what was going on behind the Iron Curtain, because actors in our media, of course, sympathized with their cause. And the cause, of course, was communism. And so there you have just a little background on Alice Walker. And so I'm about to end this, you know, because it's like I said, it's pretty lengthy. And we just gonna break this off right here. We're gonna call this part 1, and I'm gonna have a part 2 coming for y'all real soon. And I'm gonna tail it off right there because I want to bring in what is really sort of propping up, you know, what we call black liberation and what we call black feminism today, and it can find its roots across the Atlantic. In very sort of unknown places. And so, you know, appreciate you listening thus far, and I hope y'all come around for part 2, and we're gonna really get to the weeds and go down the rabbit hole to figure out exactly what black feminism is all about. Peace.